Okay, here we go, here we go. Desktop audio not hearing. Why is that? Just getting set up here. It's morning, of course, 10:30 in the morning. And it's Sunday morning, and church is happening on Facebook, online, so... Trying to listen to that. And seems like they need to flip the video and put a microphone on Pastor Jen, because it's very difficult to hear. So this is going to be a slow start. Just so you know, I haven't had breakfast yet. Just hitting the record button for fun. And I guess we're praying right now. Didn't quite hear the lead up to that. Now if I switch, there we go. Okay, I can hear that better. I'm gonna turn this up. Oh man.
As we walk towards this journey to Easter, we don't know what it's going to look like, right? The plans of man. We can plan and plan and plan. But really, I've been reminded that we only can really hold on to each day. So today, enjoy.
Just so you know, I'm recording now.
I'm going to talk about something else, and then I'm going to say something again. I know you're like, where's that? And so, if you have a prayer request, I'm pretty sure that we can do this. Can they type it in, shall we? Yes! This is church, people, okay? So, if you have a prayer request, I want you to type it in to your phone or your computer, but it'll come up, and then Shelly is going to read them to me, and then we're going to pray for it. Okay? So, and now I'm going to transition to something else. So while you're sitting around your families, if you have a prayer request, we're going to ask that you type it in, and we're going to pray for those. And so, during this Lenten season, when we really don't know what's going to happen, take every day. Like just make the most of every day. I was talking to one of our church family, and I said, what are you going to do? I said, you should put a puzzle together. And he was like, I actually have some puzzles. So, like, maybe you're going to pull a puzzle out together as a family. You know, I feel like it's Christmas all over again, and we get to do this family thing. And for those of you that are single, like myself, you can still do a puzzle, all right? It's so exciting. exciting just to put up. So exciting to put a puzzle together by yourself, especially when people mess up the way that you do it in mind and get all organized. Or maybe you can read a book together as a family. Maybe it's time to clean out the garage or to empty out, do some spring cleaning. Hillary Handy wrote an excellent blog on what you could be doing during this time. So you can be doing stuff together as a family, maybe some meal planning and meal prep, taking a meal to someone else who needs it, going for a walk around your community to pray, getting in the car, driving around your community. If you are self-isolating, that means maybe you're already sick or maybe you're
No.
one of our
I'm just getting ready to cook breakfast.
So you're just taking some steps and cautioning
Not there yet.
yourself. I encourage you.
I am.
I don't know if we understand
No, I'm recording the
with words connect to
sermon.
God Almighty. So pray. It says to pray without ceasing, to pray at all times. So I encourage you to pray. And so this week, make the most of it. Enjoy being with each other. Enjoy this time that the Lord has given to you. Do not give in to fear. Do not give in to panic. I kept saying this week, let's just take the pen out of panic. And that leaves A and C. So let's just be cool about things. But that's why. So we're just going to take the pen out of panic. We're going to be cool. We're going to trust God, our shepherd, to lead us, guide us, comfort us, heal us during this time. Shelley, has anything come in?
Louise asks, can we please pray that a spirit of community and giving overcomes the spirit of greed and fear in our community?
Yes, so we're going to pray for that right now. So, dear Lord Jesus, we come to you and we ask that a spirit of community and love would overcome a spirit of greed and self-sufficiency. So in the name of Jesus, we lift this up to you, Lord, and would you help us to love well? And when the enemy wants to just, cause us to be greedy, to look inward during this time, would you remind us that it was the early Christians who went into Rome during the plague and ministered to those who were suffering? And so, Lord, would you help us to be aware and to be kind and to share? And Lord God, that we would be examples to everyone around us. But yes, I am in agreement with you. Would you help us not to be a community that is full of greed and selfishness, but that you would help us to be a community full of love and help us practice hospitality during this time. And we ask this in your name. Amen. Anything else?
Lori's praying for a friend in the States who needs emergency surgery but has complications that need to be sorted out. She has a husband at home who any time now is expected to go home to Jesus, praying that for God's timing through all of this. And then Velma asks that we should also pray for Pat Day, hip replacement surgery on Friday, and others who are ill.
All right, let's do it. This is what church family does, by the way. Okay, so let's pray. So we're going to pray for Pat Day, who's had surgery, and we're going to pray for those that are actually in our church family that are ill and that have nothing to do with COVID-19, but just have some ongoing issues. We have one particular member of our church family who is just so desperately ill and can't come to church, and his body is just in pain all the time. So we're going to lift John up to the Lord as well, and then we're going to pray for his friends. So let's do this. So God, we come to you that day for the surgery, and we pray for those, Lord, that have ongoing illnesses. We think of John, and we ask that you be with our church family who are suffering today. And we ask that you would draw near to them, that you would heal the presence in their word of love, that they would experience your comfort and peace, your healing touch, and in the midst of your pain, that they would know that you are there. We think of Lori for this friend. We ask that you would be with her as she's plowed, but what a weight she is bearing. That you are good. Oh Lord, you are good. And we don't know why. We don't know why. We don't know why your kindness is such, but we do believe it. just spend 31 minutes together online, and it's just been so exciting. I feel like I have been at church and in church and with the church. And so be encouraged this week that God is with you. Make some space for the Lord. Pray for your neighbors. Practice kindness and gentleness. And be sensitive that if the Lord says, hey, what if you dropped a meal off here? Or, hey, what if you did something for this person? I don't know what it is, but it has to be sensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit to you. And you would feel His presence and you would experience His love. And remember to pray for our government officials. And pray, okay, we're going to do this before I go. We need to be praying for our healthcare providers who are dealing with people who have COVID-19. And so we need to be doing that. So let's do that now. So Lord God, we just come before you for our healthcare providers. I know we have nurses and doctors and healthcare physicians in our church family that need to be dealing with people who are sick all the time. And so we lift them up to you. We ask that you protect them from this sickness and from any disease. We thank you for Psalm 91 that says that we would protect us. Lord, I also want to lift up to you those that are in nursing homes where they have to shut down all of the locations. And so, God, we ask that your Spirit would rest on every single person, that they would not feel alone. That they would not feel alone. Oh Lord, the enemy so often has to come and wants us to feel alone. So we ask that you would be with those that are in hospitals and long-term care retirement homes that no longer can receive visitation. Lord, we ask that you would visit. Lord God, thank you so much for your protection and your love and provision. So Lord, as we leave this place, as we know that you're with us wherever we go. But would you help us just to continue to look forward to your presence and your prayers? So we ask this in your name. Amen. So please stay tuned through Facebook, through email. Just we will try to keep you up to date as we find out more information. And we're going to continue to do church. We're going to ask the Lord, what is it that you're having to do this week? And once again, if you're like, well, I want to give, so how should I give? Online, or you can drop it off at the church office. Either way, we will receive it. And so, with this in mind, know that the Lord is good. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will strengthen you, and I will uphold you with righteous right. Go knowing that Jesus is with you. Be blessed. We'll see you here next week. Bye.
That's it. What about worship jam? Half hour. Usually it's like an hour and a half. Oh god. Yeah. I really hope this didn't go to everybody. That everybody didn't go to this. My god. Alright, just had to humor that video for a sec. Funny. The enemy is waiting around the corner. Every opportunity. So I am in the middle of making breakfast. I wonder if I can or should turn on this mic. Auxiliary microphone. Headset, sure, why not? Alright, testing. Okay, so this mic works, but it's much quieter than much quieter than this beast. Okay, and why don't I get my monitor set up? Find our Facebook link. I have not shared it yet. I don't think anybody could be watching this right now. Maybe, who knows? I think the video is public and listed, so that's cool. No, YouTube. That's the one. That's what I'm looking for. Alpha Gaming. Cool dude. I checked his videos out. He does a lot of stuff helping people to get started with live streaming, so a very cool dude. And where are we? So let's go to my channel. Corona Cruise live now. Yeah. So it's not Friday, March 13th. And we're getting a cool, crazy echo. I wonder if that's due to probably this thing right here. So let's try again. We are testing the mic. Are we getting the echo? Yeah. Okay, so that adds a weird echo. Never mind about that. Okay, so here's our video link. We're gonna stop playing this, edit. Sunday, March the 15th. And shall we update? Okay, so a master document here. Working document, so we're going to create another working document. And once again, I'm just getting started, so and this may be a long day of streaming, could be. So if you happen to be watching from the start, of course I will create a document here and try to keep track of the progress of this stream itself. So we are at 20 minutes, so we can say 0 to 20 minutes. And watching church live stream. Watching church live stream, that's basically it. And we're gonna say setup and breakfast. So this is 20 to unknown. For now, we'll fill that in later. important part being, name it before, okay. No, that's not the right. Where did I even... Okay, untitled document. Am I having a brain thing? Where did oh, that was in the video, YouTube video. Okay, so Sunday. March 15, working document. Cool. Title, share, get the link. Can comment, get a shareable link. Come on. Copy link. Alright, so this is our new link. Corona Cruise 2020, and by the way, welcome aboard the cruise ship Earth. Sunday, March 15th. I am your host for this session, Brian. I am one of the crew on this ship, and I encourage you to also become crew and to captain your own ship and to help those around them captain their own ship, etc. The Corona Cruise 2020 organization is a viable system in that it's able to replicate in this way, and I will be describing and filling in all of the necessary protocols and information for doing such a thing. This is our this is my and our response for people who want to have a meaningful response to this virus issue beyond just the immediate few weeks or few months or whatever we're going into. Nobody knows. I am going to be talking about this upcoming part of this series is definitely discussion about the coronavirus pandemic, and as well as the pandemic of mimetic medicine, which we are trying to bootstrap and kickstart here, which is this viable system rolling along. So anyways, lots to talk about with this virus thing and just different angles and takes. So I hope you all will enjoy it. I still haven't posted. That's a total joke, by the way. So I still haven't posted the link anywhere. So we're updating this, grabbing our document, working document. Good, it's here. Gonna link this up. I just have to stay focused for a second here to get these things actually done. There's our new working document. We'll save that. Sunday, March 15th. Corona Cruise 2020. Okay, we are set up. Set up. 36 minutes, eh? Thinking like, is there music in the background? Yeah, there is. Uh-oh. No. I'm probably gonna get a copyright notice for that. Anyways, at least YouTube will give me the option to cut out this little segment here. Just dumb stuff that I shouldn't have to worry about. But that's the nature of our bureaucracy, crazy state, anti-people. Cool. Working document. Okay, so we're at the setup and breakfast part here. According to our document, I'm just gonna leave it rolling and come back as I like. The link is not shared yet. And we're gonna continue to set up and eat breakfast. Setting up and eating breakfast. You want some eggs?
Just one piece.
Wait. I forgot that I actually have a setting for this, of course. So we will be right back. Nope, that's not the one. You can see my mess going on here. That's my headphones. There we go. The gentle gasp. here we are. We live.
Hop over to our Facebook page, check. Hi church family, just wanted to let you know that we've just had our service, and if you missed it, then hop over to our Facebook page, check it out. If you have a prayer request, put it in there and we'll pray for you this week. If you need anything, contact the church office. But yes, hop over to our Facebook page and we'll see you there. Have a great day.
Hey, coming back. Here we are, testing. Sounding good, I think. Signal is looking good. Not too much overdrive. A little bit there on one unit here. I can see we're driving too much. That's fine, I kind of like it. I don't mind it. It's my style. Okay, so we're back. We're 1 hour into this, so that was well, just took a break. I'll get rid of Facebook. Corona Cruise. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of misinformation and all kinds of stuff about this. Okay, so where were we? We were setting up our document. Just bringing you back to my desktop here. Okay, and so I'm trying to get the day started for myself here. Woke up around 10, joined that live stream, already kind of vacuumed the apartment, just kind of tidied up, had breakfast. So that's kind of a little bit weird that for this video, so far half of it has been a be right back break, but I don't really care. It's fine. This kind of thing adds a bit of annoyance when trying to go back and view the content. So somebody may tune in to the video after it's been produced and kind of waste half an hour or an hour or whatever. So this is why we include the working document. So setup. Yeah, really it was like 30 to 60 minutes. Setup and breakfast, be right back screen, and we are now back. Alright, so I'm just going to open up the previous document here from yesterday. We're just going to quickly look over what we got into, and after the fact I updated this document to fill in some more of the details. I rewatched a bit of the stream myself, so right away we got into this whole thing setting up the Facebook post and my comment. So I gave a bit of my own back history here, back to the crash of 2008, all the prepping stuff, spiritual awakening, the feeling of alienation, almost just made worse. In some ways, there's that definite perception or feeling of seeing things much more clearly, but then of course if they weren't painful before, things may be even more painful.
to try and process that that awareness. And of course all this stuff about not crying wolf anymore. When you say too many, when you try to give a warning too many times to something that never seems to happen, this causes the reverse effect of what you'd hope for. Instead of people becoming more more aware of the problems, situation, that kind of stuff, they actually just become numb to these signals. And even I myself find it kind of surreal to be pushed back into this type of situation, like back in 2008 when I was watching very closely things crashing, the Lehman Brothers crash, all that kind of financial stuff, and it just seemed like bad things definitely happened then, and the world took a twist into a darker place actually from there, because then we have the moral hazard, because the banks know that they can never fail, because they'll always be backstopped, because money will just keep being printed, and we can print our way out of any problem no matter what. So 2008 big time set up moral hazard, and not only that, but the years since then, it's been like nothing was fixed. Problems just got papered over. And those who watched that papering over saw that things not having been dealt with actually got worse. But yet it felt like things turned back to normal. We had the last 10 years of seemingly normal. And it seems like that's what we just want to go back to. So I'm sure everybody is looking forward to the time when, whether it's 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, who knows how long we could be dealing with this before a sense of normalcy comes back. But that sense is what people just want, and they want naturally things to just not be so chaotic. But when we are not paying so much attention to the world around us, and we are not doing because we actually need each other to cooperate if we are going to address the systemic problems going on, we actually can't go back into that state of learned helplessness, of familiarity with comfort. And this is where a lot of the anxiety comes in for people who feel they don't know why, but they feel like something is wrong with the world. They feel intuitively the alienation, that people are wearing masks, and that they're really feeling alone, that you can't connect with people. All this stuff is it's all going to remain in the background, causing anxieties until we deal with it. And so we can't just flip back to normal. We can't be hoping that 3 weeks later we can all go back to our exact same routine. If we want to use this as an opportunity to see how sort of fragile our collective reality is, and peer into that abyss, which is very scary, of course. The idea that reality as you know it can cascade in a collapse, which we've seen just recently to a certain extent. It can keep going. Some people, many people today find this as their last day on earth, and they know they are going to die. And their reality cascades right down to the face of God. And so we are, of course, avoiding this type of thing, thinking about life and death, and just trying to go back into that routine, which is, again, as I said, it's a normal response, a normal reaction to life to want this routine and the calm, the peace and calm. The trick there, of course, being that this peace and calm is not dependent on the state of the world as it is out there, which is, of course, just an idea in your mind. But peace and calm can only be found through a right relationship with God. That is the only source of it. You cannot hope or expect for the world to go back to normal just as you thought it was and always would be. There's always going to be these triggers, as I talked about last time, these triggers causing desire of the world to be different than it is, and of course this being the hook or the dagger of the demon entering into your perception, into your reality, and driving you forward. So we need to be able to cut these types of trigger actions and find the calm in the storm, and that calm can be described as Jesus. He is the ideal archetype for a healthy response, a healthy worldview, response to the world. The world is always going to be the world. There will always be sin, all this kind of stuff. We have only one rock to hold on to. Only one rock is the foundation. Only one is the cornerstone. And okay, so back to the live stream. So just kind of getting into the swing of things. I'm going to post a link to this live stream, so bear with me a moment. I'm just going to find that. I believe this is the one. No, not studio. Okay, here we are. Just checking, we're about 10 seconds delay, 15. Okay, here we are. Actually, like a 20-second delay. Just checking, we're about. Corona Cruise 2020. Discussions about the current event. Sunday, March 15th. Cool. Alright. So story, and do I add it to a story? I don't know how that works. Anyways, this is my story. Okay, newsfeed and story, whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna check my page. 13:15. Okay. I'm gonna post on to Telegram as well. See if we can get a few people on the stream. And since I just posted the link, if you're joining me just now, welcome. Feel free to post comments in the YouTube chat. Live. So started streaming 80 minutes ago. Alright, so let me just stop that on my screen. So on Friday, so I was just kind of getting into recapping, and then we did a bit of a monologue there about the current event and should we hope for things to return to normal as it was. The answer is no. We need to do something about this on a bigger picture type of view, going all the way back to the crash of 2008. Things were not fixed at that time, and so the general anxiety cannot be dealt with just by papering over, as has been done with the money printing. Of course, since 1972, when the gold standard was abandoned, the monetary systems of the world, that was so. All of the currencies are pegged to the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar was pegged to gold, and it is not anymore. So it's basically floating in la la land, and this allows us to have this perception that we can just print money as we want and it won't have any other weird impacts. So that's how we dealt with the crash of 2008, and of course since then the problems have just been building because we basically swept things under the rug. And so when I said that this, like last time I mentioned that the virus itself isn't really the threat, but it's more of a, I mean it does seem like a pretty big issue on its own, even if we weren't standing on this on the shaky financial ground. But there's some things that weren't dealt with that we need to deal with, and the magnitude of the problem is something I want to explore, and I'm going to try not to just make assertions about it or I don't want my approach to be a sort of information overload of just telling people things. I want to lead by example and show by example, and so most of what I'm going to be doing in this live stream series is a more meditative approach, and I'm going to be taking triggers triggers from the news, from memes, from takes that people have, stuff that's going on, and kind of try to bend the focus back to this self-development stuff that we need to be participating better in society and paying attention and alert and helping each other and communicating. And as many of us know, we felt it very deeply, this alienation, this disconnection from each other. We've been forced, it seems, into this Black Mirror device. and away from each other. So that's going to be my main approach here, is to simply use the current event and its multifacet to point to the kind of work that I've been doing, that I've been pursuing, and I'm going to be using a meditative approach as much as I can, not really preparing anything in advance, except for collecting your feedback. Whatever I seem to be sensing from Facebook, or whatever people are posting or linking to me, or especially if you can ask questions, that would be great. In chat, whether it's Facebook chat, you can try, you can hit me there, or YouTube, or Telegram, or even just text me. And I would like to try and get more of a feedback going. So again, I don't want to be as much as I can just asserting like what I think the situation is. No, I'm going to, as I said, take interactions, take your inputs, take what I think people are thinking, and try to meditate on those things and give my take on it. So I think that communication is very important in I don't want to say like times like these, it's always important. But this is, in my opinion, the most concrete response that we can possibly have to this outbreak and to whatever quarantines is to talk about it, and to talk with each other and share our ideas and what we think and our thoughts, and basically come together. And the research that I've been doing, as you'll see when I demonstrate, and as I demonstrate these various techniques, the Zettelkasten game, the guild, the protocols, as I describe them in the context of the Corona Cruise 2020 organization. So I'm going to be filling out the details of this organization. This is a reflection of the meta organization, the meta religion, and this is kind of the power of that. We can translate between symbol sets, and this includes existing religious organization. If it is from God and of God, then it should make sense in context, and we should be able to work with it now. We should be able to work with it in presence, in context, in current context, and it should be able to make sense, and we should be able to translate between different views upon the same thing. Yeah, so that's going to be more my approach here. More meditative approach. Oh, thanks, honey. So people are posting stats and all that kind of stuff, like how many cases and deaths and all that. This is really like the state view. I'm going to pull up a link. Thanks to Trina for posting. My story, is this the current one? Just gonna find a link to, I think it was something Johns Hopkins or something. And this is the one that I've been hearing about and seeing in videos. This is the map of the spread and all this kind of stuff. Information. So I'll grab a copy link. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to drop it in the current working document. And we are at an hour and a half, so half an hour. So from 60 to 90 minutes. Intro, monologues. Should we hope for things to go back to quote-unquote normal? That's a question that I posed there and then talked about that. And yes, of course, we do want peace and calm in the world out there. This is the promise and hope of Jesus Christ. And this is kind of another thing that I know some people are not comfortable with that type of language or that symbol set or whatever. I was born and raised an atheist, scientismist, all this kind of stuff. And this is another big part of this live stream thing that I'm doing. I'm going to try as best as I can to relate and discuss and dive into some existing religious type material, biblical stuff, to show how it's supposed to be used. The Bible is a book of wisdom, and you can go to almost any page and find something that applies to your life, and that is kind of the point. The point was never to say that my space god, dad in the sky, man, whatever dude is better than yours. And of course how our imagination each thinks of that and what it means to us. There's a lot of ways that religion is taken, is abused. And I talked a bit about this last stream, but so talking about coherence protocol and the mechanics of the journey of increasing coherence, which is a generic way of saying the journey of making your life, yourself, your life, and the world around you better. Some people are explicitly on that journey, and they use religion as a way of communicating that journey. And if you take it from there, it's really like one of the best things that one could be doing, without having to communicate that. Christianity, Buddhism, many other religious systems are, at their core, the material itself can be used for good, for great good, but the ways that we have instituted our organizations are inherently broken and are not including this feedback that I was referring to last stream as well. Feedback protocol, this very important thing that there's a reflection of what we do in our lives, being sensitive to the environment around us, so not being bigoted, not having these categories in our mind and sorting each person by category. That's kind of an evil mind approach way of doing things. Now, it's only evil when it's disconnected from this feedback, from the balance of because the mind automatically sorts things out into categories. No matter what we do, that is unavoidable sort of mechanic of perception. What we have to be sensitive about is when we take these categories and project them out into the environment and then shut up the environment. Like, if it's going to try and be nuanced, if the environment is going to try to come back with us as nuanced, for example, if we are racist against somebody and they show compassion to us, that nuance is in conflict with our category, with how we think that they are just this color of skin, or they are of this, they are poor, or whatever, therefore they're scary and they might try to rob us or something. There, in the wild, in the jungle, there is a reason for this kind of categorization. You see a tiger, you don't ever want to see it again if it comes after you. Likewise, if we see violence, if we witness violence, the mind is automatically going to try and categorize that for future avoidance behaviors. And in other words, a trauma gets lodged into our worldview, and from then on we're going to potentially judge people by that appearance, by whatever was present during that traumatic event. This is, I'll throw out there, icebreaker protocol, this which is the conscious interception of these kind of prejudices and whatever, and even routines, like even habits and addictions and stuff like that. Icebreaker protocol can be utilized to kickstart the feedback process. And so this is something that we as human beings have to do to navigate the environment properly, respectfully. This is just one way of saying it. This is potentially like that. This is what respect is, respecting the environment, what it is. Anyways, I've just said, I've said that in the past, I believe, and it seems right that when I'm interacting with somebody, I hope that they would not prejudge me in all kinds of various ways, but be open to that relationship, that me as an individual transcend any potential boundaries. Any categories of the mind of the other, and this is how we come into a relationship. And this is the kind of relationship that Christ shows us beyond any kind of category. And so it's interesting that this is Sunday and I am essentially giving a sermon, which is kind of interesting, but I plan to probably be doing a lot more stuff today with this. I may even open up the Bible to certain passages, just to show how we can use it. So I was just getting into that, the feedback protocol. I was describing the feedback protocol. Feedback is the constant updating of our category system, so to speak. This is the abstract phase space of perception. This is the abstract, the semi-timeless, the reality itself, the bounds of our reality, so to speak. The reality tunnel is made up of types of things. That's one way of saying it. And these things all interact with each other based on constraint of how they hold each other together. And everything is in this metastatic tension. And so the tendency of life is to get old and crusty and get into a groove and not change anymore and be comfortable in never changing. And this is actually This is actually death. This is spiritual death. So this is why we need feedback protocol, to be consciously aware of this process, that our reality is malleable, as we've just seen in this last week of the markets collapsing and all this kind of stuff, and quarantines looming for us Canadians and Americans. We don't know if we're going to be asked to stay at home for a long time. People are panicking, all this kind of stuff, and reality just changed. And it's so difficult in times like this to keep your head in the sand when literally everybody is now talking about it. I remember some people on Facebook during the first few days, the first day, they're like, if anybody talks about the virus, I'm going to delete you off Facebook and all this kind of stuff. And then a few days later, we'll look at that. All they're doing is talking about the virus. So we need to adapt to change. The only thing is that the triggering to do that is very difficult, and the narrative must be intercepted. So as I was saying in the last stream, I do have I've been developing and practicing and working on this ability to connect with people and to connect with their stories and to see where they're at, and to try and guide them towards this meta-organization, meta-religion, the journey of increasing coherence. This all to say, taking one's life very intentionally and seriously, and using that icebreaker protocol to burst out of our depressions and the way that we get stuck into loops of thinking and behaviors and addiction, and all this kind of stuff, and out into life, and life to the full, which Christ promised. So that's why when I see an event like this, which, I mean, in all honesty, we're seeing unfold what could keep on unfolding. It's not necessarily just going to be a few weeks of whatever. That's kind of like best case, is that it's a few weeks as this big shock. We get our chance to talk to each other and realize that there's something more to this life that we should be paying attention to. And that's kind of the best case scenario of this kind of thing, is that ideal kind of return to normal. But hey, you guys remember when that happened? Well, it's what if it happens again? What if this happens? What if that happens? And so hopefully we can avoid the whole financial meltdown thing. That would be a bit more tricky to deal with, of course, and I mean, the cascade of things that can happen, and ending with who knows, no power. Like, if we look into the situation as it's been, I think there's no reason for that kind of panic, except that I'm just kind of airing out my own thoughts. There is the potential for things to get worse, but looking in China, they've been at this for a few months now already, the lockdowns and whatnot. Power keeps going, food keeps going, the trucks are driving around. Same is going to happen here. It does seem a little bit ridiculous to me that people are out panic hoarding or whatever. There's always been enough food, like, within the system, for people to just continue eating and doing as they've been doing. But so again, we're kind of been exposed to a shock. That shock is at least 2 weeks of food and water and toilet paper, apparently. That people are thinking, okay, maybe I have to quarantine. This is very reasonable. Like, if you have a few weeks of food in your house, you're good. You don't need to go anywhere, as according to the kind of best ideal case scenario of this kind of going through and blowing over. we can all expect to have to stay in for a few weeks at some point, whether we get sick ourselves, that kind of stuff. Once this really gets going, though, like as I was talking about stuff baked into the cake, there's exponential growth. We can expect it to happen here. We can expect hospitals to be overloaded, that kind of stuff, as what's happened like in Italy. You never know, though. It's impossible to say. We do have good healthcare systems. Our proportion of hospital beds per capita is something to look at. Something I think I may have. I thought I got some wiki about that. Yeah, right. So, list of countries by hospital beds. That's interesting. So we can see Japan and South Korea at the top, and interestingly, they've gotten their thing like pretty well down pat, it seems, under control. I don't know if that's to do with social distancing or whatever, but they've got hospital beds per 1,000 people. They're talking 13 for these two countries. Russia, Germany, they're way up there. France is about half that, and we're going down. We're still not seeing us. China, 4.3. Going all the way down, Italy 3, and wow, look, and we're even lower than that, so we may not be in a great situation as far as hospital beds per capita. United States, we're looking at about 2.5 to 3 for Canada and the US per capita, and I think that's per 1,000, yeah, per 1,000 people. So we are going to have to expect, and I wonder how much of a dent this can do, but I've seen that in the States they've passed legislation to be able to kind of commandeer literal hotels, like actual hotels, motels, and use them up as bedding areas, hospital beds, places to put people while they are trying to recover. And of course, at least until this gets into the full-blown like part. And at least until this gets going, like really going full steam, we need to be keeping each other away from each other if you're sick, kind of stuff. And so having places to put people, that's great. I think it's probably a great idea. I'd like to know how many hotel rooms we have, like, and I don't think people are going to be staying in hotels as much because we're talking limited travel. So it seems like a win-win situation. The hotels may get paid, presumably would get paid by the taxpayer, whatever, but okay, and we are just cruising along. I'm liking the pace here. Again, as I said, I'd like this to be for more of a meditative stream. I don't want to tie myself up with getting into a certain train of thought and that kind of stuff. Although later on I will be doing that once things kind of pan out a bit better, a bit more. When I have a bit more organization as far as what I will be covering and getting into. When I have more of an agenda going on like that, I'm definitely going to be I wanted to figure out in OBS Studio some way of putting like a caption or something, like, so which one are we at right now? Scene 4th. I don't know how to do like a caption. Do 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 do. View, advanced tools, captions, source. No, I want something like a caption, but I want to scripts. No. So it would be something like, I assume, wait, let's do it here. Plus, so we would add like display source, maybe an image. Oops, no, create a new image. So it'd be like, I'd have to create category images of stuff that I'm doing at the time. So like just as an example, cool. So if this image was actually a bit of text or something, I could keep it in the bottom right, and this would be my context. And of course, as I switch scenes, it's going to go away. So that's kind of annoying. I'd have to figure that out, how that works. But also, I want when people are just tuning in, there to be some kind of, I don't know, text, not a ticker, but like text that people can see what's going on. Anyways, so when I get into a context like that, I'd like to be able to graphically signify that context and then potentially make clips of that later on. So we'll have the whole package of production. So as live streaming and expecting to be making a clip, and that clip being of a specific thing, and then being able to link that clip into to our document, whether it's this document or so probably the master document. I'm pretty sure this is going to be the actual document itself, where I would be Okay, so, and I've thought about this before actually. I may need 2 more documents, so I'm just going to write down for my own reference later. Corona Cruise 2020 org. So we have an organizational database. We'll call it a deck database.
What the heck?
was that?
What the heck? Whoa.
Something like exploded.
Yeah.
And then was dragging on, like someone's tire popped, or?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I heard it dragging.
I don't see anything.
That was very strange.
Whoa.
See?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So something happened.
Wow. Interesting. Wonder if I can stretch my camera out there. Won't be able to show very much, but that's all right. Yeah, I think it does seem like traffic is slowing down. One neighbor was looking that direction. He came out of his apartment. He's on the corner, so he could probably see what was happening. Anyways, it seemed to me like a tire popped. Who knows? It is a mystery. That sounded like a tire popping though. Especially since it continued dragging on. Alright, so where were we? The deck database. Okay, so this one of the contexts of this live stream is the Corona Cruise 2020 organization, which is a viable system in that it is able to replicate. And in order to do such a thing, there are many, many different constraints that have to be in play. One of them is the ability to share the protocols which describe itself. So that's our deck database. We are also going to have Corona Cruise 2020 org. Let's call it the captain's log. So this is kind of like the narrative, the ongoing dealings of this, what we call a proximity guild. This is actually, the proximity guild is equivalent to essentially a deck on the cruise ship. So come to this deck if you want to work with me on developing this organization. In other words, training yourself on how the organization works so that you are able to train others and replicate the organization. And we are talking about a cultural sort of peer-to-peer cultural response to the pandemic, the current event. So our deck database is more of an abstract accumulation of abstractions, and this is concrete. This is more the narrative, the stories, the concrete of what's actually happening. So within this Corona Cruise 2020 org, so if you were to replicate this, you would have to say you would be creating a new deck, definitely a new deck, a new proximity guild. In other words, a new collection of people, a new context. That's what the deck is. The deck is a context
in which a number of people are motivated to do something. So you could call it a mission. That's the AO terminology, which is autonomous organization, which is another organization attempting to, within its own facets and domain, reflect the meta-organization. Autonomous organization is a piece of software that we are currently working on, which is a software reflection of the meta-org as well as the Zettelkasten game. It's basically a mind mapping game as well. It is the same, essentially. So we're probably going to have two more documents here. And I think there's going to be, because there's going to be more to it probably than just these working documents. Within the working document, so we'll get back here. Within the working documents, I'm not necessarily logging, it's not necessarily a chronology. It is in some sense of just the fact that from top to bottom I'm writing down, like these are definitely logs. But there's more development and stuff like that. It's not intended to be a pure logging of events, or a schedule, if you will. Okay, so started streaming 2 hours ago. I wonder, oops, if I go to my stream. Cool. Okay, just checking. Seems we have probably nobody watching right now, but that's okay, because all of this is being recorded and will be used later, and anybody can catch up with me just by clicking the link. And of course the other point of this is just to be getting work done, to have that context ongoing. Because it's so easy to get distracted and to not be doing work that I want to be doing. This is why we continue to live stream, because at least YouTube is watching. All right. So where were we? So I guess we can get back into some coronavirus stuff, since that's kind of one of the main points, main attractors of this live stream. I wanted to talk about just a little bit about people hoarding, panic hoarders. Yeah, so, and as well how this whole thing is being handled. I feel like it almost feels like the government didn't want to cry wolf and cause panic, in the same way that I felt like I didn't want to, but ultimately this causes damage because we're not able to effectively warn each other and prepare in a timely manner. Now, I could not cry wolf a month ago physically. Like, I mean, it would have been even less well received because people would be even further from, well, and it seems like just at the last moment this stuff kind of snapped anyways. Like, even the last moment, as I was describing in my last live stream, I made that post that get ready for 2020 kind of thing, dear friends and family, it's not a time for head in the sand, and still people were struck by that. Like, what do you mean? Like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Type of response. And not even a few days later, and it's like everybody knows exactly what I was talking about. But the government can do this months in advance because, of course, the government has access to the media and the news, which people supposedly put all their trust into. And so the news has the ability to cause all kinds of panic and stuff like this. And that's what it's set up for. If you look at, again, the example of advertisement, how we have this giant technology stack able to broadcast to millions of people at once to tell them that their skin is too rough, or whatever their problem is, or they smell, causing them to buy a product which enriches a company that paid for that advertisement. So you have this trigger loop of feedback, and that's what it's designed for. But so why, if we knew that this is extremely contagious flu virus, which is certainly going to overload the healthcare system, if we knew this months ago, which was fact, this was baked into the cake, this is why I was personally warning some family members who were close to me. I was warning them that this is a problem. This is going to become a problem. It's mathematically impossible that this does not become a problem. And so I was able to talk to some people, and still, still nothing can really happen out of that. It's like, yeah, okay, like I see what you're saying, but why should I panic? Nobody else is doing anything, or whatever. The reality doesn't sink in. And this is so when it finally does come over the news and that kind of stuff, and people are wondering why the shelves are going empty and there's lineups around the store, this is kind of like reality hitting you, whereas me telling you something that this is going to happen when you're not there yet, it has zero effect. Just there's nothing that I could do about it. But on the other hand, governments and media, they could do something about it. They could have trickled or slow paced this this idea that people should be getting ready, that maybe we may need to quarantine. And the virus has been raging, spinning around the globe for the last few months now, solidly for 3 months. So governments have been totally aware. So why do we wait until the people themselves start panicking, and then we acknowledge that it's actually a thing, and the markets and all that kind of stuff crash, and then it becomes a real signal? We knew that this was going to happen, but I as a person, we don't have this trust level to one another. We trust the media and whatever the news is saying more than we trust each other. And And as I mentioned, like, when I cried wolf, so to speak, and said, like, get ready, that was right before this happened. I knew beyond any shadow of a doubt, I knew it was already, that was it. It was, we were going to see what's about to happen, so it doesn't matter, I'll post it. But even then, I could never convince anybody, like, except for my own wife, and some people online who are tuned into this kind of stuff. It just, for most people, it wasn't part of the reality. So, anyways, I'm just getting at the point. I'm wondering, are we screwing this response up? Should we have been doing quarantine and stuff like that, or like getting this message out about social distancing and whatever, which is effective? Should we have been doing that earlier? Not only that, but should we have been asking people to prepare for this earlier? And so hopefully we're just seeing a bit of a shock right now, a supply side shock, or sorry, not a demand side shock, where people are just panic hoarding, and the trucks are still arriving. The trucks, yeah, except for that one that just blew out its tire on the highway. But the trucks are still running. Like, there's gonna be, the response in the market, supermarkets, is gonna be that they're gonna, whatever they ran out of fastest, they're gonna have extra of it for the next shipments. It's just gonna be there, and it's really stupid to like close down sporting events and all this and say nobody, don't gather in crowds and all of this, but then you have the panic hoarders all getting together, waiting in a lineup, and just crowding the supermarkets all at once so they can buy all their stuff. And so this is a huge potential vector, and this is why I preferred to and did get some supplies. Not that I could really afford much, but I did it during this week when stuff was crashing, when the markets were crashing. I already knew that the next thing after that is like people at the stores and whatever, and so I gathered what I could, and we already have a pantry. We're already generally prepared for this kind of stuff, so we don't actually need to worry too much. But if you're one of the masses who has nothing and who just needs to do their weekly shopping because you're going to starve for the rest of the week, it really sucks to be in that situation. I wouldn't want to have to go out to the stores right now and fight crowds of people, like literally fighting over the last box of Kleenex or whatever these people are doing. And getting potentially sick in the process, because in all likelihood, we do have a case in our hospital, one case at least known of. There are, in a city of 120,000, whatever, Barry, even 5% of that, 500, I don't know, could be 500 infected, who knows, and they're walking around. Like, we don't, one big problem with this virus is the incubation period of up to 2 weeks, and being asymptomatic in that period, and on top of that being contagious, so shedding virus while not even knowing that you have it yet. So and this is kind of one of the really tough parts of this virus, is that you don't know that you're already surrounded by it, potentially. before it even hits. So there's a lag time of at least a week even before we get a handle on what kind of spread we're looking at, how many cases in our local area. We don't even know. It could be a week or two delayed. So the panic hoarding stuff is kind of dumb, and it's really, I'm not trying to look at for someone to blame or something to blame, but this is a slow unfolding crisis which has been unfolding solidly for 3 months. I've been watching it, and I've known that it's going to come to this beyond a doubt in my own mind, and it's just due to mathematics, geometry. And so why didn't we prepare better earlier is a very interesting question. And some countries are handling this very well. They're not seeing an exponential rise, and other countries are, like in Italy, you had some government officials starting a campaign to hug Chinese people because you don't want to be racist and you want to signal your virtues, that you are not a racist, and that because of course, even in the last month, I'm sure people have been noticing this. There has been kind of like an unfair stigma attached to Chinese people just because that's where the virus started. But the solution is not to hug them or hug each other in cases where general social distancing should be practiced. So we have like these ideals kind of conflicting with reality, and who knows what that probably had hardly anything to do with the severity of the outbreak in Italy, but that's the kind of stuff we need to definitely be aware of, watch out for. And that kind of gets back to feedback protocol as well. Every Chinese person is not infected with a disease, and that's just ridiculous to think such a thing. But the way that we treat each other right now should be with caution, social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And what we are trying to do is delay the inevitable so that we have people getting sick going through the healthcare system and then recovering in time to make room for more beds. And if everybody gets sick kind of all at once, that's the healthcare disaster that we are seeing unfolding in Italy right now, where people with, for example, like if you have a heart attack, you're not even getting into a hospital kind of stuff. So nobody was ready. This is just an article, CTV News. I think this was even on Friday. Yep, Friday. And then Saturday morning, I just looked on Twitter and saw same thing. Line up 8 o'clock in the morning. Line up around the store already at Zehrs, and I assume it's continued through to today. I don't know, but again, this is just kind of dumb. Like the thing about everybody packing together into a supermarket, probably coughing all over each other and whatnot. And what to do about it exactly? Like, if we are going to start, if the government's going to clamp down and start saying, like, no, you can't go out and do this kind of stuff, it's going to be chaos. So really, the government tries to manage us, but we need to manage ourselves. We need to be communicating rationally with each other and figure out strategies which are to reduce harm. And the government cannot do this. To the government, they see government, of course, people responsible for enacting the government and doing government stuff. They are always and always have been, I'm just imagining, perpetually frustrated with how helpless people are and how they have to be managed in such a crude way. And basically, in that we don't look out for ourselves and help ourselves as much as we need to, and we really need to kick that into high gear. And this is what the Meta organization is about communicating, connecting with each other, taking care of ourselves and others, and essentially having our own participating in the governance of our own self and our own community. Yeah, so this is just this article here. We want Canadians to know you don't need a supply of toilet paper or rice for 9 months. So what we're doing is clearing off the shelves for people who, for the next person behind us who doesn't get any. And there wasn't a problem with food, but like, as far as there's no supply chain disruption. Now talking about Chinese manufacturing and technology, yes, big time disruption, and this is a big deal for the stock market and certain tech companies, especially even certain medications and biotech. So tech and biotech out of China, a lot of that stuff is getting disrupted, but I don't think we get a lot of our food from China or anything like that. And some stuff maybe we do, but still, I don't currently see any kind of big long-term or medium-term disruption in food being available for everybody at the store. So it doesn't really make sense to stock up beyond a couple of weeks of what you may need in case of quarantine. But then again, so we have these herd panic behaviors, seeing other people panic and then you do it, and it's like, oh, why did I go through that weekend of hell when next weekend the stores are going to be like normal in all likelihood. I bet we're going to see a spike, but we're not going to see lineups around the store. This is just right now. I don't see any reason for that. Now, if you don't have food for a week or two, I would be more like, I would be concerned. We don't know how things are going to go going forward, but there's going to be food on the shelves. So anyways, and this kind of concern, again, of course, we're getting back to that, like, should we do something more about this? Is this just a symptom of bigger problems that our society has? And should we be looking into more sustainable and local food practices, production, transport, storage, being able to either dehydrate or freeze food, to be able to can and jar food, and doing this stuff locally, taking a bigger part and participation in our food networks and supporting local farmers. All this kind of stuff, of course we have to do it, and this is the big shock that we are getting, because globalism is really going to take a massive hit as far as the idea of it, and this kind of new world order stuff where everything is just perfectly centrally managed from the top down, and each country only builds one little piece of the puzzle and then depends on all of the rest for all the other parts. That idea, that ideal, I would say is now destroyed and crumbled. And I think people are going to come out of this with a much better appreciation for community and for local responsibility, for sustainability, for what we could call disintermediation or decentralization. And disintermediation, of course, meaning just that general heuristic of bringing things within your local realm of responsibility as much as possible. So just working on it, one thing after another. This is something we all need to do individually, to be working on our own home budgets and our own bill situation. Sometimes people only see that they don't have enough money and that they must therefore work more, do more overtime, but they neglect the fact that money is being spent on frivolous things, on addiction or just addictive behavior generally, or this entitled behavior, like that you deserve people to cook for you, to go out and have a fancy dinner and then feel so good about that even though the food is crap. All these weird little things that we're in, we need to break up that ice and move forward in a healthy way. And so that again, in this I'm kind of containing all of this in this Corona Cruise 2020 organization. If you are doing this kind of stuff, understanding, participating, and trying to share this type of idea, then this is the way that I will be describing it and conveying that kind of stuff, and you can participate in it, as well as I will be and am continuing to articulate the constraints and the requisites, the prerequisites, all this kind of stuff that it takes, what it takes to make a sort of viral organization which spreads peer-to-peer. And this is the top. We're talking about an organization that represents the meta-organization. It doesn't get any more all-encompassing than that. And this also, of course, acknowledges that there are so many different ways of viewing this and of conveying this type of thing, and all throughout history, and we have so many examples going back to the axial age of the kind of birth of these religions and whatnot. We now have the tools to properly approach and address what has been the goal ever since we could see how badly we lost what we once had. And that was the birth of the axial age religions. And we lost our connection to the world around us, we became alienated from our very own bodies. Our minds became extracted from the context in which we live, and we as people were plucked from the earth and put into these heartless systems which we invented, which in some ways are great and do great things, but we must have this balance. We must have the balance, and this is what Christ represent. There's a lot of good in the systems that we have in place today. They feed us, they clothe us. We don't just go back to primitive life. That's not an option. Like the kind of completely pre-civilizational life. Our minds are too very much accustomed, and the culture is sort of warped into this helplessness. And of course, all life has been commodified, has become a packaged product, including you and me. And of course, any organization claiming to represent the meta-org worth the words it was created with will have the facilities for navigating this decommodification process, however you want to call it. It's not even that. You can't really avoid that. It's like words and language itself, the commodification process, because like the body has constraints. For example, I can't drink polluted water or radioactive water or whatever. The water has to be a certain way. Therefore, if I'm going to connect with other people in context of society, and we are going to do trade, which is a fundamental part of society, there have to be standards which we can expect the products that we trade with each other to meet, and those products must be coherent with the body, with the environment that we're part of. In other words, they must be isomorphic, and that in itself kind of demands a sort of commodification. Just the fact that I don't want just any water, I don't want a mud puddle off the ground. I need something that's purified, non-contaminated, all this kind of stuff. And so that's just an example of how we don't really get away from that. However, how we deal with the commodity has to be addressed. In other words, when we connect with each other to trade or to share, that connection between people is very important, and there must be a relationship there. And if it's not there, then this wicked process just unfolds like a cancer. If I go to Tim Hortons and buy a bottle of water, I have nothing to do with the person behind the counter. I don't have to care a single thought about them. And they don't even care that they're there. They don't even want to be there. And this is the kind of society we've built. And so, of course, we can expect for a long time, maybe forever. Maybe this is just the way that it is or should be, that we're going to see always this conflict between the system and its dead state, how it wants to die into these perfectly normalized products and all that, and not have to pay attention, and everything's externalized. and alienated, we can expect that to happen. There's always going to be a market. There's always going to be a market, and things are always going to try to be, people will try to exploit things. So the balance has to come in, which is the relationship between people and even between ourselves, to have responsibility for our own selves, and to say, like, even this kind of ideal, which most people should be familiar with, to be a good consumer or a smart consumer or whatever you call it, somebody who can research their product and see what are the practices that companies are putting into this product, where does it come from, what is its whole impact and footprint on the environment, and all this kind of stuff. How much suffering was put into this product, from how much animal suffering. So we can become much more aware, even just without thinking about changing the system drastically. This is working within in ways that have already been common and known to people, but which we don't do because and even labeling, like now I don't know if they did this successfully, but for a lot of products they want to take out country of origin, and this is kind of like that globalist thing. Like they don't, the system doesn't want us to be able to discern even where a product came from, or what kind of thing went into its production. It simply is what they say it is. It is that type of product. Exchangeable, fungible. One bottle of water is exactly identical to another bottle of water, which we know is not true, and this is kind of pointing to that feedback protocol, that icebreaker, these sort of the dynamic of potentiality beyond the simplistic view of reality that we take up, that we say one bottle of water is exactly like any other bottle of water. And this is, of course, very it's normal. We're saving energy, we're not wasting energy, we're just trying to go with the flow with whatever has worked in the past. This is a bottle of water, fine, but we all know that we've encountered this, where a company will make a product so great, and then it's just the product, it is what it is, but you watch the ingredient list over the years and it completely gets hollowed out, and then you have just this hype left over but no substance. And this is the general, this is the spectacle this is the commodity spectacle, and this is the way that it works, and it works this way for every single product, and it's been happening under our noses and we don't seem to notice it, because it happens so slowly over time. When we take what we've done into historical context, and look at the past, then we see that definitely things were different. Things were very different. Even our monetary supply. What is... people freaking out. Yeah, so big freak out over this. Some people say, oh, it's just a flu and all that. We don't need to be sharing red alert news flash. 170 people died in Italy. And some people will kind of try to downplay this virus as the flu kills whatever 50,000 or 20,000 per year and nobody bats an eye. That's completely not a good way to... Apple is closing its stores in Canada. Alright, that's kind of seems overkill at this point, but who knows? So, and are we overreacting to this? That's another thing. And is the overreaction part of some kind of plan to shut down the economy for whatever reason, and I don't know. So I can ask questions, but again, I'm not going to try to make any kind of assertions, but just because there's so many questions and so many unknowns to this. So people were kind of, at least initially, they're like, oh, it's just the flu. And I was like, but how is China shut, and this was 3 months ago, how is China completely shut down? And this is going to screw the economy because of, this is a supply side shock of so many, we're at 2 hours and 45 minutes, by the way. So, yeah, anyways, kind of lost my train of thought, but I was talking about people who are saying it's just the flu, and using these numbers of how many people have died, which is basically like none, hardly any, but again, the math, it's baked into the cake. There are going to be more deaths this year from coronavirus than flu by probably a number of maybe even order of magnitude. And so it's not really, it's one of those kind of dumb things to say, like that it's just the flu because the flu kills way more. And at the same time, why should we be focusing on 173 people died in Italy in the last 24 hours? Like, that is also insignificant and irrelevant for what we need to know about this. Like, why just incite panic? And this is where Facebook is going to probably screw us, because we don't know how to filter our communications with each other properly. Trinity commented on Friday, the last live stream, that a lot of bad memes are going around, and this includes news clips. Like, those are memes as well. That hits your memeplex, and a bunch of things rise up with that, and you interpret that in news, and then it ends up that your interpretation comes out that you should share this piece of information. But we need to work on our filters better and be sharing more important information, and not just the panic side information, which is like maybe facts. Like, facts are good to have, but also, what are we doing about it? So what I'm trying to do here is share what I've been doing about this since I want to say way back since 2008, since my kind of reality on this, the world and the government, banks, and all that kind of stuff, and is everything the way that it seems that it's presented, these stories. But really, the last almost 3 years that I've been working on developing this Portal Mountain representation of the meta organization. We need this. We need the meta organization. This is the new representation. This is the new representation of religion, and really, I'm trying to find a way that this can connect and resonate with people. And so Portal Mountain is like meta representing the meta religion as well as a meta organization. It depends on which way you're looking at it. As far as organization, it's more of just a structural thing of the way that our corporate efforts come together and become something bigger than any one of us. And as well, the meta religion angle of looking at it probably includes that, but also it includes more to the core of changing oneself, of just coming into more alignment or resonance with the self, with the strange holarchy is one term we put out there, which is basically a more complex, comprehensive view of the self, which is not limited to the flesh, so to speak, one's own body. But this goes out into society, which is our environment, and within our environment, which our body is. And of course, that's a quick description of the strange loop itself. So this is an approach that I've been working on. I've been I think fairly uniquely blessed with my own experiences to have hopped onto this and figured, like, navigated through my own experiences to come to this conclusion, and just having the ability to build up an organization with others. And right now we have a proximity guild called the Portal Mountain Lobby, which has about 110 people in it already. Maybe 10 or 20 are fairly active. But so many people have joined all throughout, and have helped in whatever little way that they could through their own little interaction, or maybe more participation, have helped to develop this organization. And yeah, so this is my approach, and this is why it's going to keep coming back to this, and this is why I say that this is the overarching context for this live streaming series. And that overarching context is the Corona Cruise 2020 organization, which I will be describing, and which is growing. Currently, we have a number of members, and we are the crew. So those who understand deeply what I've been saying and talking about, we are the crew. And if you think you are a crew member but don't feel like you're in the loop, please contact me, and we can work together more closely. All friends and family invited and welcome, as well as anybody from the Sorcery of the Spectacle subreddit, or the Telegram network, where we have probably 100 or more groups of various sizes, probably averaging around 10 to 20 people, and of course some people members across multiple of those groups. So where were we? The supply side shock meeting, interestingly, demand shock, and all kinds of things happening with the market. But so we were talking about the response in China and the inevitability of certain government type responses and quarantines and whatnot in our own countries, that I'm sure we're going to see them. And initially my thoughts on that were kind of like, okay, this is some kind of end game thing where it's like the perfect storm, the perfect opportunity for governments, or the shadow government and all this kind of stuff, which we've been becoming more and more aware of, thanks especially to the Trumpinator in the White House. Two ways you can look at it. One, his own incompetence has been somehow revealing to us this whole deep state thing. I don't know if that's the take you want to take on it, or that he has been intentionally showing the hand of the government and the kind of ways that things work. in a sort of accelerationist take on things. And again, so that there's a syndrome here called political derangement syndrome, where one takes a side, left or right, up or down, back or forth, whatever side you want to be on, and then you take that and that's your group, your in-group, and then you attack the other group. So however that comes out, Trump is bad or Trump is good or whatever, this is political derangement syndrome, which you may be expressing or may catch yourself expressing it sometimes, and it doesn't help anything. Divide and conquer is the normal tactic, and really it's just something that we do out of disorder, out of decay, our decayed state of civilization. This process of commodification of all life, which has been ongoing, is really a process towards states of decay. So this, too many thoughts coming all at once. Do I want to get into the commodification stuff? Also, I should have been kind of updating a bit as I go along my document, so if I could probably can't even really recall. So where we're at, intro monologues, and we've been talking about the panic, orders, government and news media, related to preparedness and signaling in advance, and that kind of gets into the problem of the people. So it's almost like we don't want to tell people, because what will they do, and we're not ready for it. It's the Costco employees saying stuff. Thank the mainstream media for whipping everybody up into an unnecessary frenzy. We should have done this a long time ago. There is a limit. Okay, limits are coming to Costco. That's good. Yeah, cool. Thanks. I was going to reference, or we were going to talk about just this case of some people in Costco, like literally showing up to the store and getting truckloads of sanitizing wipes and then selling it on Amazon. And like this is who we are. Like the problem of the people. So this is the problem of the people. We are so far out of touch with reality. We need to be programmed exactly with instructions, and the media can't just say like, okay, slowly start preparing. As soon as they say anything like that, it's like, what? The media says to prepare? Everybody panic as fast as you can, and then, oh, there are shortages and people are just hoarding shit. So really, when I'm talking about that problem of warning people, and even as a media and government, which has control, they have the reins of the broadcasting system. They can put any message they want over it. Even then, why have they not warned us earlier when it was baked into the cake, as I was saying? And the reason being because we are all just a horde of I want to say like very anxious and nervous, just a trigger ball waiting to happen. And this gets back into computational propaganda and all this kind of stuff. We've all been grooved into these normal these programs of like even to fear Russia for some reason or whatever. This old Cold War programming that everything is blamed on Russia. Like, how does that even work? And it's like the politics in the U.S. is like people get stamped out from the presidential race just by insinuating or whatever, like that Tulsi Gabbard, just, oh, she's a Russian spy, a Russian agent, and then everybody gets labeled with this. If you're not on the side of whoever is controlling the narrative, then it's just a simple narrative weapon that's used, that's set up. It's a holdover from the Cold War, that anything that the officials want to push the narrative towards, all they have to do is say that you are part of the enemy, or somehow the enemy supports you, or the enemy likes you, and that implies that you are the enemy. And it's this simplistic kind of stuff that we need to break apart, icebreaker protocol, use proper feedback, take people in a respectful relationship. And I'm going to be taking a break pretty soon. I'll see if I can wrap up some of my thoughts here. Just have been a few loose ends. So we as people are just helpless balls of triggered. This is just speaking generally. The way that society that we've been programmed through advertisement and all this kind of stuff to just be mass controlled. It means that essentially, and we're at the far end of this commodification process where all life is being commodified. We don't even have these inner balances. We don't have the inside anymore. We're not alive inside en masse in general to be able to properly reflect and take in these signals and reflect them back out into our environment. So if the official government says don't panic, we're just going to panic, or whatever it is. Like, we're all just balls of trigger waiting to explode. And this is the problem of the people, that anybody who is even in a position to warn in advance that things aren't the way they seem. Like, and I'm kind of just looking from the outside, trying to look from the outside, like, it almost seems hopeless to reach people, to do even what I'm doing. I know that there still is only a handful of people that out of my whole Facebook that I'll maybe reach that will hop on board with this viable system, this organization, the Corona Cruise 2020 crew, and who will understand that and get an idea that responsibility has to be taken for ourselves and for the world around us, and that this is a healthy and normal and natural thing, and that it's emergent, and that I am simply describing it. I'm using words and cognitive technologies to describe and to navigate that. And this in itself is the core of that organization. This is what allows it to represent the meta-organization. So this can be represented over and over again however you want to your people in your community. And this is how it is supposed to. This is how it is originally supposed to flow. And in the past, we have had to hold on to tradition and all this kind of stuff to try and keep the message of Christ, of the Bible, of all this stuff, as pristine as possible. But then we're not integrating it into our lives deeply enough that we would actually be comfortable talking about it using a different language, a different symbol set. and saying that Christ is the Grand Master, for example. Christ is the Grand Master. Yeah. So I am just wrapping up. Hold your horses. So to call Christ the Grand Master, that is for an example of utilizing different language or symbol sets. And Christ is the balance. The balance between order and chaos. And so anyways, the problem of the people, we need to take up our own responsibilities. And I'm going to show you how to do it, how I've been, and how to start doing it, how to start talking about this, the meta-organization. And this is not the way to do it. Again, as I've said, Coherence Protocol, Bootstrap Protocol. I'm providing bootstrapping materials for the so that you can test them out. And these are provisional. All bootstrap materials are provisional to be dropped once you get it. Then you can go ahead and go forth and make your own translations and speak in your own language, in your own symbol set. So I'm going to be getting into a lot of that stuff hopefully later today. Normally today is our small group stuff. So later tonight I'm going to be doing definitely live streaming again, and I'm going to be going over what we have shared within our small group to try and get more intentional hold on our lives. Introducing some tools to help us make commitments and keep them, as well as how to execute on those commitments. So in other words, creating timelines and schedules, and thinking and meditating on how to take care of our lives and to make things better in our lives and better all around us. And this is, again, the basic story, the basic meta-narrative that we are sharing. This is the meta-narrative, the journey of increasing coherence, of increasing harmony. And it's kind of like this. It's kind of like an overarching thought. It's an archetype which unfolds into all areas of life, possibly. And this is a way of aligning ourselves rather than getting out of our selfish ways or whatever is motivating us up until now, like, oh, I'm going to retire, I just need to work and save money. And we are shifting those selfish little focuses and whatever we are thinking about, and we are sharing with each other the higher journey, and how to do this and how to bring each other online in this effort. And this is the cascading unfolding of the wave, the meta-organization as a wave. And so I don't think I'm watching. I think somebody else might be watching right now. So that's cool. Hi to you. If you have any questions, post them probably real quick to the YouTube chat, or onto the Facebook post, or in Telegram. I'm going to be on again later. I'll be able to address these questions or anything else that's coming up. And so I think this kind of wraps things up. I know there are a couple points that I wanted to expand on just a bit more, but I'm going to review this recording later on. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Thank you for that. I know at least one person has seen or watched a bit of this, so that's awesome. And so I will be reviewing this video, as well as updating the working document for today. And do I need to put anything else on here? Okay, there's that. Oh yeah, this list of hospital beds per capita, which is interesting. Panic orders, yeah, so we were getting into the problem of how to communicate this kind of an unfolding with people, and really, so I'm highlighting things as further motivation and trying to solidify those narratives and connect with people to show why we should be figuring out how to work together instead of being completely alienated from each other, even not talking to each other in many cases. Head in the phone. We've lost the ability to socialize in many cases. The younger generation just gone into the black mirror. And the trauma, this insane trauma, so many things are in the way holding us back from each other, which we need to deal with, and this is all part of the core of the Corona Cruise 2020 organization. This is the core. This is what has to let it unfold. So essentially I have to get myself better, and then including dealing with trauma and all this kind of stuff, and then I can start sharing with others how to also get themselves better, including dealing with trauma, before people are even in a position to participate in this type of peer-to-peer organizational unfoldings. So I'm going to call it for now. I'll be back. I'm just going to go out for a walk, probably have some lunch and that kind of stuff. And so for now, thank you all for being with me, for watching, and for participating, and for hopping on board. Welcome aboard the crew. We need you all. And in that we can see the magnitude of the challenge ahead of us, as I've just described. And cool. Yeah, so we're good for now. I'll be back on later, and until then, happy sailing, happy cruising, whatever it be, and we'll see you soon.